Okay, cool. So if you want to access this course outline, here's the link, bit.ly/2n99jbd. That's it right there. And the first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to update this. And then we have this movie database right here. So once you have Postgres installed, you could go to your, there's a terminal, a shell, a command line interface. So if you wonder about that sometimes, just like an FYI, I'm going to put terminology here. So when we have terminology, and there's command line interface, okay? And so we'll do command line interface, and this is heading 1, sweet. And so there's a couple of command line interfaces. And for Mac, Unix, Linux, it's referred to as terminal, though that could kind of go either way. Generally, you hear about it just with Mac, Unix, Linux. It could be bash. It could be shell, right? So somebody might say, well, show me your bash, show me your shell. And that's Unix, Linux. On Windows, it's the DOS prompt, right? Or the command prompt, right? And so a terminal is command line interface. How many people have worked on the command line? Sweet. How many people never? How many people aren't raising your hands? Don't raise your hand. And so, this is the graphical user interface. I have a window. There are icons, right? Command line interface, that's a graphical user interface. You interface with your computer with graphics. Command line interface is just commands. It's at a terminal. And so that's once you've installed PostgreSQL, you'll be able to open something called SQL Shell. So that's what we're going to use, and it's command line interface. And so there's SQL Shell command line interface right here. And it's asking me to log in. I'm going to make this bigger. So I'm going to go up to Terminal and go up to Preferences, and I'll change this from 18 point to maybe 24. And then I have to restart it. It's a little bigger.
Is it Postgres 9.610 or 9.69?
I think I'm using, I don't know, 9.6 something, but you could use 10.5.
10.5.
And so now it's asking me just some information. Like, is my server localhost? Is that on my computer? Yes. Is the database Postgres? Yes. I think that might be the username, Postgres, because that's the username. Port 5432, fine. Oh, there's the username, Postgres. Okay, so I just accept that. And then the password. The password in here on your machines in here will be BE129. Will be the password in here, BE129. Okay, so you just enter that there. And now I'm at a Postgres command prompt. So I could start doing things. And so the first thing I'm going to do is come back over here. And there's the movie database. And so I could create a database. And let me just zoom in on this. I could create a database with this command, create database, and then give it the name, and end it with a semicolon. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to create database, copy that, come over here, paste it. And if you're in Windows, you might need to come up here to choose paste. Windows, not so good for command line, not as good. So there's create error, database movie rentals already exists. So I can list all of my databases by going like this. There we go. \L lists all my databases, okay? And these commands are in there. And so I'm going to do drop database movie rentals just to get rid of it so we can start over. And it says drop database. So if I list all of these again, that's no longer there. I had movie rentals up here. I dropped the database movie rentals. And it says drop database, not necessarily the clear indicator that this has succeeded. But now I no longer have a movie rentals database. So when I paste back in that command to create the database, and you could cycle through commands you've entered. using up and down arrow keys. Okay? So I'm just going through the commands I've already entered with my up and down arrow keys. I'm going to create that again. Boom, it's created. So I created my database. And now I'm going to use that database. So if I wanted to list out my databases, what was the command? To list out the databases. \L, right? So \L, boom, there are my databases. And then to use a database, I need to go C is change into that database, movie rentals. Boom, you're now connected to movie rentals. Notice how the command prompt changed. Is that Postgres, which is this one, right? Default, these are default. They come with Postgres. Don't delete them. I don't know what happens if you do. I'm also somewhat of a rookie. I am a rookie to this stuff, right? But now I've switched. I've changed database to movie rentals. My command prompt is now movie rentals. And it says you are now connected to database movie rentals as user Postgres. So the owner, the default username is Postgres. Eventually, you could create different usernames, different permissions, different people could log in, access the database, right? So I've connected to it. Now I'm going to create a table. So I could copy this code, create table, customers, customer ID. It's going to store data type int. This will be a primary key, and it's going to be not null. And I'm going to have the field CNAME, and it's going to be text, and it's also not going to be null. So I'm going to copy that in. And I created the table. So now if I do D, it'll list out, right? L lists out all my databases, \L. \D lists out all my tables when I'm in a database, maybe details. And you can do details and put in the customer name or put in the table name. And you can see here, right? Customers, type table. Now I could see more information about that table. And just to keep things clear, I'll just do it right at the top. So there, its table is public.customers is the table. I have the column CID, CNAME. The type of data is integer and text. And the modifiers are not null, not null. And then the index, customers primary key, right? B-tree, CID, I don't know. CID is my primary key. That's what I get from that text. How many people are with me? How many people are like, hello, what's happening? So it's a little bit of a tour, okay? Just giving you a tour. We're driving fast through the countryside right now in our convertible. I'm saying, look at that barn, look at that tree, there's the lake over there, and then we're going to come back and we're going to stop at each of those places. And we're going to look at the barn and walk around the barn and figure out what the barn, that's the analogy, okay? So we'll come back and we'll spend more time on each of these things. So don't freak out. Just it's a tour right now. I want to show you that we can create this movie rental database pretty quickly. So we created the database. We changed to the database. We created a table in the database. You could use either of these commands. This one inserts into the table customers these values. This one inserts into the table customers, into these fields, these values. If you are inserting into all of the fields in a table, you do not need to tell that. So I just left that out. That's the difference between this one here and this one here, is that stuff in red is the only difference. Okay, if you're inserting into all of them, you don't need to list out the field names. I'm going to put that in. Boom. 6 records inserted. So now we've learned we could do this. Select star from customers. Now I've got those customers in my table. So this video is now 9 minutes and 40 seconds. It's like bad juju if you go over 10 minutes. You really shouldn't go over 8 when you create videos, because people's attention span is so small these days. So we're going to continue building this database in the next video.